been thinking a lot lately about the likelihood and obstacles to the development of intelligent life on other planets in the universe. On this planet too, but that's another question and a joke with remarkable staying power. What's recently got me wondering about how high the bar is to the evolution of intelligence has to do with the development here on Earth of the eukaryotic cell. Now maybe you see immediately where I'm going with this, and some of this may be familiar, and if so you may want to skip ahead. But I want to look at how the evolution of the eukaryotic cell may play in to the likelihood of the development of intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. This is a follow-up video to one I made recently to consider the premise that intelligent life elsewhere in the universe is rare. As I acknowledged in that video, I'm not a neutral observer in all of this. I'm really not happy to be headed in this direction. I really want there to be abundant intelligence in the universe, if only so one day we'll have some other species to talk to. It's a huge, lonely universe if humanity is the only intelligent species in it. But let's follow the science, limited though it may be, acknowledging the huge unknowns when you have but one example of a phenomenon. So my previous video focused on our one data point, and it made the point that it took so long in the history of the biosphere, 4.5 billion of the perhaps 5+ billion years of Earth's biosphere, for intelligent life to evolve. Today I want to look at one part of that long process, the development of complex cells here on Earth, and how that may bear on the likelihood of intelligent life's development elsewhere. As you may recall, it looks like simple life, call it bacterial life or prokaryotic life for now, took a blink of an evolutionary eye in deep time to develop. If the Earth is 4.5 billion years, we had simple life by 3.8 billion years or maybe even earlier, suggesting that simple life may have evolved here on Earth as soon as it was possible, as soon as the Earth cooled enough to make that life possible. Though the matter is not yet resolved, it looks likely that these first cells had their origin in deep-sea hydrothermal vents, where they had access to thermal energy, promoting chemical reactions between hydrogen and carbon dioxide to form complex organic compounds, and where that chemistry could have led to protocells, in which a membrane separates the outer world from the inner environment of the cell, and importantly creating proton gradients and electrochemical potentials across these membranes capable of doing work to generate energy for use within the cell. But our topic is intelligent life, which as far as we know exists not in simple organisms, but in structured multicellular life forms, forms that can become larger, more complex, organized living creatures which have the capacity to further evolve on their own. Simple life doesn't seem to do that, even with billions of years at their disposal. All complex life on the planet, from algae to plants to animals like ourselves, are made of this particular kind of cell, eukaryotic cells. Let's take one quick moment to review the three basic kinds of cells on Earth. Somewhere on the ocean-covered early Earth, the first cells came into existence. All later cells trace back to these. That was the time during which the last universal common ancestor, known as LUCA, lived. Enter Carl Woese, who in the late 1970s made a startling discovery that is now universally accepted within biology. What Woese did was to study the RNA within the protein-making apparatus present in all cells, ribosomes, and he made an extraordinary discovery. There were two groups of simple bacteria-like organisms that were genetically entirely different, and had been genetically and historically separate for billions of years. What had looked like one group, bacteria, were actually two. Bacteria and a new group called Archaea. To Woese, the most fundamental tree of life had to be redrawn to three domains of life: bacteria, Archaea, and eukaryotes. Eukaryotes, unlike bacteria, are cells that have compartments separated by membranes. A nucleus, separated by a nuclear membrane, and membrane-bound organelles like mitochondria, and in plants chloroplasts, and other cellular organelles. Bacteria, like eukaryotes, generally conduct their energy generation by pumping protons across a membrane that can power the production of energy in the form of the energy-storing molecule ATP, which can then be used for metabolism. However, bacteria do this on their cell membrane surfaces, whereas eukaryotic cells use specialized cellular components called mitochondria within the cell, which contain their own inner and outer polarized membranes to produce ATP. Rather than be limited to the cell membrane for energy production, eukaryotic cells can have thousands of invaginated mitochondria per cell. An average eukaryotic cell has thousands of times the metabolic power of a bacterium, which allows a wider range of coding for proteins, and especially means more capacity for protein synthesis, the most metabolically expensive process within a cell. Eukaryotic cells accordingly have much greater capacity for protein synthesis than bacteria. So why are we discussing eukaryotic cells in relation to intelligent life? Because intelligent life comes out of multicellular life, which at least on Earth means it comes from these ultra-energized eukaryotic cells. And it took 2.5 billion years for these cells that are the building blocks of complex life to develop. And this development of eukaryotic cells happened only once in all of Earth's history, at least in a way that stuck. We know this because all eukaryotic cells have a single origin. They're monophyletic, meaning they are all related to each other, having genetic affinity to each other, not present in Archaea or bacteria. This event that some biologists describe as the greatest singular evolutionary discontinuity to be found in the present-day world occurred just once in 2.5 billion years, some 1.5 to 2 billion years after the development of bacteria and Archaea. What actually was this world-changing, life-changing event that led to eukaryotic cells? Well, the almost universally accepted story originated in the 19th century, but was popularized by biologist Lynn Margulis in the late 1960s. At some point, a singular event occurred, once in all of Earth's history, and it looks to have been something like this. An Archaea engulfed a formerly free-living bacterium in a process called endosymbiosis. In this case, the bacterium was some sort of proto-mitochondrion-like bacteria. The engulfed bacterium and its progeny endured within the host Archaean cell and provided the capacity to generate energy, not only on cell membranes as in bacteria and Archaea, but within the specialized proto-mitochondrion within the cell itself. Over time, and no doubt many generations, the symbiosis solidified. Most of the genes in the bacterial proto-mitochondrion were shuffled off to the genome within the nucleus, except for those that were essential to be present in the mitochondrion for mitochondrial function. And presto, the eukaryotic cell, which slowly initiated its development, and over the next billions of years, making plants and algae and animals, and eventually intelligent life like ours. Now, there are some conflicting views on this. For one thing, I've oversimplified a lot of it. There are those who think that eukaryocentric views, like the ones I've espoused, are biased, because we ourselves are composed of such cells. Others think that there may have been other ways that multicellular life may have developed or gone, but didn't. But I think I've described the mainstream biological consensus. So back to the main question about intelligent life on other planets. What is clear is that the singular event on Earth that led to intelligence happened once in 2.5 billion years, about 2 billion years ago. The way I think of it is this. There was a time before we understood the origin of eukaryotic cells, and a later time when there was scientific consensus on the matter. Whatever likelihood we would have assigned to the development of intelligent life elsewhere prior to understanding the nature of eukaryotic cells and the rare endosymbiotic event, one has to reduce that likelihood after understanding it. So here we are again. Rare and unlikely events led to intelligent life on Earth. This doesn't suggest that intelligent life is common. To the contrary, it would suggest that intelligent life develops with difficulty and in the aftermath of rare events. The origin of eukaryotes make the process look harder. But there's no reason similar events couldn't have happened elsewhere. They are certainly possible. After all, these events may be rare, but they did happen here. or a different set of events that we can't now anticipate may have happened on suitable planets. And I'm trying to be patient while waiting. Lurking in the background is the numerical reality of the universe. Take very rare biological events, multiply by a quintillion or more planets in the universe, and I'll still bet on intelligent life somewhere in the universe. But how far away that planet is, and whether you or I could ever know about, your guess is as good as mine. Be sure to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell icon, and thanks a lot for watching.